The hidden psychology of intimacy. You know, when it comes to the topic of intimacy, especially between a man and a woman, people often avoid it because it's uncomfortable. They fear being rejected, being misunderstood, or being seen as weak. But the truth is, intimacy is not just physical. It's psychological, emotional, and deeply spiritual. It's about honesty with yourself before it's ever about honesty with someone else. When a man approaches a woman for closeness, the question isn't, what words do I say? The real question is, who am I being while I say them? Most men seek approval before they seek connection. They chase validation before they establish respect. And when they do that, they give away their power. Jordan Peterson often says, you must treat yourself like someone you are responsible for helping. That means before you go to someone else asking for closeness, you must first learn how to stand firm, how to understand your own value, your own truth, your own boundaries. So today, in this speech, we're going to explore how to ask a woman for intimacy without facing rejection, not by manipulation, not by pretending, but by understanding the psychology of respect, attraction, and authenticity. This is not a trick of words. It's a reprogramming of your mindset, how you carry yourself, how you communicate, and how you connect. Because if you can't face your own fears, your voice will shake when you speak. And if you don't believe in your own worth, every woman will feel it, and before you even finish your sentence, let's begin. Understanding the psychology of rejection. Rejection is one of the most powerful forces that shape human behavior. We fear it more than we fear failure, and in many cases more than we fear death itself. Rejection feels like an attack on our identity, a silent message that says you're not enough. But here's the psychological truth. Rejection is rarely personal. It's not always about you. It's about timing, energy, readiness, and alignment. Jordan Peterson explains that the foundation of strength is not the avoidance of pain, but the confrontation of it. When you face rejection head-on, something remarkable happens. You start to realize that it doesn't define you. It refines you. Men often misunderstand intimacy as a transaction. They believe that if they say the right thing, do the right thing, or act a certain way, they'll be accepted. But that's not intimacy. That's performance. True intimacy begins when you stop performing and start being. When you stand before a woman not trying to impress her, but to express your truth, calmly, clearly, without fear of losing her, that's when attraction happens. Not because you forced it, but because you were authentic enough to make space for it. Rejection only has power over you when you make your self-worth conditional on someone else's response. If she says yes, you feel valuable. If she says no, you collapse. But if your value comes from within, or from your competence, your discipline, your sense of meaning, then her response becomes information, not a verdict. That's what emotional maturity looks like. And it's exactly what women find irresistible. A man who is comfortable with rejection becomes unshakable. Because he's no longer asking for validation, he's offering presence. And that presence is what makes intimacy safe and magnetic. The law of authentic expression. The second step is to understand what I call the law of authentic expression. This is the principle that every word you speak, every gesture you make, carries the energy of your inner state. If you speak from fear, your tone will tremble. If you speak from confidence, your voice will anchor the space around you. And if you speak from truth, you'll draw others closer without needing to chase them. Jordan Peterson teaches that truth is the foundation of love. Without truth, there can be no trust. And without trust, there can be no intimacy. When you ask a woman for intimacy, it's not about crafting a perfect line. It's about speaking with integrity. You can say something simple like, I feel connected to you and I'd like to explore that closeness, and if you feel the same. It's not dramatic. It's not manipulative. It's real. Because real confidence is not loud. It's grounded. And here's the paradox. When you stop fearing rejection, your chances of rejection drop dramatically. Because your energy shifts from needing to inviting, from begging to belonging. Women sense this instantly. They're biologically and emotionally wired to feel whether a man's intentions come from strength or insecurity. If you come from insecurity, she'll withdraw. If you come from grounded clarity, she'll respect you, even if she's not ready for the same level of closeness. That's the trick of psychology here. It's not about making someone want you. It's about creating the conditions where authentic attraction can emerge, free from pressure, free from games, free from pretense. You become attractive not because you're flawless, but because you're fearless. And that's what Jordan Peterson emphasizes, the courage to tell the truth, even when it might cost you something. If you can look a woman in the eyes and speak from your truth with humility, respect, and confidence, then rejection doesn't destroy you. It reveals you. The masculine energy of presence. The first thing you must understand before even thinking about intimacy is that presence is power. Presence is not what you say. It's the energy that speaks before your words. When you walk into a room before you speak a single sentence, people feel who you are. Jordan Peterson often emphasizes that the most dominant force in human interaction is not aggression nor charm, it's presence. Presence is the embodiment of awareness, composure, and purpose. Most men lose this because they're not present in their own bodies. They're living in their heads, replaying old rejections, anticipating new ones, constantly calculating what to say next. And when you live in your head, you disconnect from your instinct, your grounded energy, your masculine center. Presence means you can hold space without needing to fill it with noise. It means you can listen without trying to control the outcome. It means you can look into someone's eyes and simply be there, without anxiety, without pretending, without trying to prove anything. Women feel presence the way a musician feels rhythm. It's something they intuitively respond to. When you are present, she feels safe, not just physically but emotionally. That safety is what opens the door to intimacy. Because intimacy is not built on seduction, it's built on trust. When a man can hold his own space, he communicates something profound. I'm not here to take from you. I'm here to share myself with you. That energy, calm and certain, is irresistible. But presence requires discipline. It requires the man to master his emotions, his impulses, his fears. You can't be present if your mind is trapped in the past or terrified of the future. Peterson says, you cannot control the world, but you can control how you orient yourself toward it. Presence is exactly that orientation, the state of being fully alive to the moment you're in. When you learn to be present, rejection no longer feels like death. It feels like clarity, because you're no longer addicted to outcomes. You're anchored in truth. And the man anchored in truth is always attractive, always magnetic, because he's not chasing validation. He's radiating purpose, the courage to express desire. Now let's talk about the one thing most men fear, expressing desire. Desire has become misunderstood. Men are told to suppress it, to be cautious with it, to hide it under politeness. But suppressed desire doesn't make you noble. It makes you numb. Jordan Peterson would say, to be harmless is not a virtue. You must be dangerous, and then learn to control it. What he means is that your desire, your sexual energy, your ambition, these are not sins to be ashamed of. They are sources of life, of creation, of connection. When you deny your desire, you lose your spark. When you own it, respectfully, consciously, with integrity, it becomes a powerful force that draws others to you. The courage to express desire doesn't mean being aggressive. It means being honest. It means being able to look someone in the eyes and say, I find you beautiful. I feel drawn to you. I'd like to explore a deeper connection, only if you feel the same. That's not manipulation. That's courage. That's truth. And when truth is spoken without fear, it becomes magnetic. Most rejections come not from what you say, but from how you say it. If you speak with desperation, she'll feel pressure. If you speak with composure, she'll feel respect. Because women respond not to the words, but to the energy behind the words. Here's what happens psychologically. When a man suppresses his natural desire, he unconsciously communicates weakness, a lack of authenticity. But when he integrates his desire, when he accepts it as a healthy, natural part of being a man, he radiates a quiet confidence. He's no longer hiding from himself, and that honesty, that wholeness becomes deeply attractive. Peterson reminds us that the hero is not the man who avoids his instincts, but the man who masters them. When you channel your desire through awareness, it transforms from hunger into warmth, from neediness into attraction, from fear into power. To ask for intimacy without rejection, you must first stop rejecting your own desire. Only then can you express it with strength, clarity, and grace. The art of non-attachment. There's a paradox in human connection. The moment you stop clinging, people are drawn to you. The moment you let go of needing a specific outcome, you become magnetic. This is what I call the art of non-attachment. Jordan Peterson often says that meaning in life comes not from comfort, but from responsibility. When it comes to intimacy, your responsibility is not to control how she feels. It's to control how you show up. When you approach a woman with the mindset of, I hope she accepts me, you're placing your value in her hands. But when you approach with the mindset of, I'm here to express my truth and I'll be okay either way, you reclaim your power. That's non-attachment. It's not indifference. It's inner freedom. Non-attachment is rooted in abundance. The deep knowing that your worth is not dependent on anyone's approval. When you live from abundance, rejection becomes redirection. It doesn't wound you, it guides you. A woman can feel this energy immediately. If you approach from fear, she feels it. If you approach from peace, she feels that too. People sense the energy of someone who's at home within themselves. And that's the real secret to asking for intimacy without rejection. Be so grounded, so whole that you no longer need the other person to complete you. When you stop needing, you start attracting. Because you're no longer operating from lack, you're operating from fullness. Peterson once said, if you fulfill your obligations every day, you don't need to worry about the future. In relationships, this means if you show up as your best self every moment, honest, respectful, brave, the outcome will take care of itself. Non-attachment teaches you to respect the process, to allow space for connection without forcing it, to invite love without clinging to it. And paradoxically, that detachment is what makes true intimacy possible, because love cannot exist where there is fear. Love grows in the soil of freedom. So if you can look a woman in the eyes, express your truth, and still walk away with peace, you've already won. You've transcended rejection. You've mastered yourself. Building emotional competence. Emotional competence is one of the rarest strengths a man can develop. And yet, it's the foundation for meaningful relationships. Because no matter how confident, disciplined, or logical you are, if you cannot understand your emotions, you will always be ruled by them. Jordan Peterson often reminds us that chaos is not something you eliminate. It's something you learn to navigate. Emotions are that chaos and unpredictable, raw, and powerful. But when you learn to listen to them instead of running from them, they become your teachers rather than your enemies. When you approach a woman with emotional competence, you bring calm into her chaos. You become the eye of the storm, steady, composed, and aware. Because women don't respond only to words, they respond to the state of the man speaking them. If you're nervous but pretending to be confident, she'll feel the tension between your words and your energy. But if you're nervous and still honest and still grounded, she'll feel your authenticity, and that's what earns respect. Emotional competence doesn't mean suppressing what you feel. It means naming it, owning it, and then choosing how to act on it consciously. It's saying, I feel anxious, but I won't let that stop me from speaking truth. Or I feel desire, but I'll express it with respect. That's the essence of mature masculinity. Power under control. When a man is emotionally competent, he's no longer reactive. He doesn't collapse when she hesitates. He doesn't explode when he's uncertain. He observes his emotions like waves. He rides them, but he doesn't drown in them. Peterson once said, "To stand up straight with your shoulders back is to accept the terrible responsibility of life." That posture isn't only physical, it's emotional. It's about standing tall inside even when your heart feels fragile. When you develop emotional competence, you automatically become more attractive. Not because you're pretending to be strong, but because you are strong. Not the kind of strength that intimidates, but the kind that steadies, protects, and reassures. And that, more than any line or psychology trick, is what opens the door to intimacy. Because emotional competence makes a woman feel that she can trust you with her vulnerability. And trust is intimacy's deepest form. Living with integrity and purpose. Now that you understand rejection, authenticity, presence, desire, non-attachment, and emotional competence, there's one final key to this entire philosophy: integrity. Without integrity, everything else collapses. Integrity means alignment between your thoughts, your words, and your actions. It's about living what you say, not just speaking it. Peterson often teaches that meaning is found in the responsibility you voluntarily accept. In relationships, your greatest responsibility is to live as a man of truth, even when it's inconvenient, even when it costs you approval. You cannot build attraction on lies. You cannot create respect through deception. And you cannot maintain intimacy if you're disconnected from your purpose. A man with purpose becomes magnetic because he has direction. He's not wandering through life hoping for someone to complete him. He's moving toward something greater. And in that movement, he naturally attracts those who align with his energy. When a woman senses purpose, she feels security. When she feels integrity, she feels safety. And when she feels safety, she opens. Not because you've convinced her, but because she trusts what you represent. That's the paradox of true attraction. The more you align with who you are, the more others align with you. The more you chase external validation, the further away you drift from real connection. So ask yourself, are you seeking to be loved, or are you seeking to be worthy of love? Because the second path is the one that transforms you. Integrity doesn't mean perfection. It means being accountable, willing to admit when you're wrong, willing to learn, willing to grow. It means that when you speak, your words carry weight because they're backed by discipline and consistency. Every time you act with integrity, you reinforce the foundation of your own masculinity. And from that foundation, intimacy ceases to be a pursuit. It becomes a reflection of who you are. The Stoic truth of intimacy, at the end of all this, all the psychology, all the theory, all the lessons, and what truly matters is simple. Be the kind of man who can be rejected and still stand tall. Because when you are no longer afraid to lose, you become impossible to manipulate. When you no longer need validation, you become deeply attractive. And when you no longer fear rejection, you gain the freedom to love honestly. Jordan Peterson's work teaches that meaning is found on the other side of fear. So if you're afraid of rejection, that's the exact place you must go. Because every fear you face expands your capacity for truth. Don't seek tricks to impress a woman. Seek truth to express yourself. Don't try to bypass rejection. Learn from it. Don't chase validation. Cultivate self-respect. A man who stands in truth cannot be rejected by life itself, because he's no longer negotiating for love. He's embodying it. So next time you stand before someone you care about, remember this. You don't need to convince her. You don't need to perform. You just need to be present, honest, and grounded in who you are. If she says yes, be grateful. If she says no, be graceful. Either way, you've won, because you acted with courage, integrity, and awareness. That's the psychology trick no one tells you. Rejection loses its power when you stop rejecting yourself. So stand up straight. Speak your truth. Look her in the eyes, and mean every word you say. Because the greatest intimacy begins not with another person, but with yourself.